Whenever we listen to motivational speakers, one of the first things that they say is that you cannot accomplish anything if you stay within your comfort zone. In fact, it's pretty much a cliche at this point. Those with lofty ambitions couldn't possibly accomplish what they want to without going outside of their comfort zone to some degree. This attitude has only become increasingly prevalent today, as the current economic situation being faced in so many post-industrial capitalist countries that the saying rise and grind is seen as a way of life for a lot of people. You always see this idea being perpetuated by those who have, quote, made it. Billionaires like Elon Musk, who stand by the idea that growth and success comes from working 100 hours a week. And in a capitalist society, the pressure of pushing for perpetual growth only seems to make the mentality more relevant. It's one that resonates with a lot of people, particularly people of my generation and younger. Who's also part of this generation? Takagi Reni. Reni is a member of the most popular idol groups in Japan. That group is one of the biggest inspiration stories for a lot of people, a group which started from the bottom and became a national hit before everyone in the group graduated from high school. Since they began in 2008, a lot of things have changed. The girls have grown more mature, and the way they present themselves now is more cultivated, as opposed to only a few years ago. The girls who had for so long called adults evil are now themselves adults. Adult versions of themselves, of course, but adults nonetheless. One of their other points of growth that so many readily point out are their live performances. Gone are the days of unstable, out-of-breath voices desperately attempting to project themselves whilst executing choreography in such a way that trying to perform it all yourself really makes you appreciate what their live performances used to be and what kind of exertion of energy it demands for such a long period of time. It seems very apparent that all the members of momoclo have managed to work towards becoming better at what they do to some degree. But then there's Reni. One of the big peculiarities about Reni that has made it difficult for me to talk about her for years is that she was never really the best at any one thing in particular. Whenever momoclo as a group would do something as a group, Reni was always eclipsed by the performance of somebody else. She isn't really that great of an actress unless she plays a character similar to herself. When she's given an instrument like all the others, she's the one that appears to be struggling the most and looks visibly less comfortable at the instrument than the rest of the members. She's not really the best singer, and her dancing has the tendency to stray either ahead of or behind the beat at times. See her grueling tap dance lessons for the Dome Trek tour to see what I mean about that. When she does some kind of modeling, she is visibly stiffer and less comfortable looking than the others. As a performer, she's neither prodigious nor necessarily exceptional, despite whatever hard work she might put into it. She's always been consistently adequate. And that's why it's been so difficult to talk about her. How do you praise good enough? I'm not talking about difficulty with something like reviewing an album or a single that she releases, but Reni as a performer. I mean, that is Marugoto Reni-chan. This concert exists to showcase Reni as a solo performer. And despite what I've said about Reni as a performer, somehow Reni's solo live series is the longest running of all of them. This one particularly is her third. In 2017, it was her third. Kanako and Shiori have expressed their disinterest in doing solo lives. Momoka is gone, which leaves only Arin, who has only done 4 concerts in up to 2019, compared to all the ones Reni has already done. In all fairness, however, Reni's concerts are comparably in tinier venues, at least compared to Odin's. But why was Reni the first to get a solo concert in the first place? At best, she's an adequate performer. And while that's not bad, she is outclassed by someone like Odin as far as sheer presence is concerned, let alone everything else. What is it that Reni's fans are seeing in her that I'm not? I've asked myself this question a lot, for years actually. The borderline fanaticism that some of her fans have for her, bordering on deification even. What has Reni done to earn this level of devotion? These were the questions that I asked myself when going into my first ever viewing of Marugoto Reni-chan back in September 2017. Despite all that skepticism, I came out of that live, twice actually, loving it. Twice because about exactly halfway through, the fire alarm was pulled in at my dorms, and I had to evacuate the building lest I make a poor first impression on the dorm management. And even despite the long pause between leaving my room and coming back to finish it, Marugoto Reni-chan, the mood wasn't killed. It was like nothing happened. For a long time, I wondered why that was the case. It wasn't until very recently when I think I discovered what that was. Reni's merit as a performer doesn't come from her exceptionalism or her constant growth. No, instead it's the opposite. Her merit as a performer comes from, as I mentioned before, her consistency. A group like momoclo is constantly changing. You can see that in the radical changes they made to their musical direction with their new album, for example. They're always trying new things, and with that also comes somewhat of a lack of security, or at least a sense of security. For years, we've had people attempt and fail to predict when momoclo would disband, and things they've cited were largely rooted in changes momoclo have made over the years. Oh, they're doing kids' albums and kids' shows now, is one of the immediate examples that comes to my head. A group that is constantly trying to evolve is bound to probably lose the confidence of some people. But that's what it is. In a way, that's sort of the movement towards perpetual growth. Reni, at least individually, contrasts that. While everyone else in the group continues to push themselves to outdo their last thing, Reni sticks to what she's always done. While she has done away with the exaggerated dancing and her demeanor is more confident than it was in the past, by and large, she's the same as she's always been. Where's the merit in that? Familiarity. It's been said many times before, especially about music, that people are more likely to like a song that is more familiar to them. It's our natural inclination to prefer something that is more familiar to us than try something radically different. It's human nature to prefer that which is familiar. The brand of familiarity that can be seen from Reni isn't to be mistaken by the way something like K-pop is manufactured to look and sound in order to sell outside of Korea. And she doesn't go out of her way to try to hit certain obligatory beats and tropes that she thinks sells. It's all natural and genuine. And maybe to some, liking something or sticking to something that is familiar to you or even nostalgic makes you stuck in the past, unwilling to move on to new things. And to some degree, they might be right. But is it really a bad thing to want to relive the time when I spent in Hawaii through her performance of Aloha? In this time of such anxiety over the rise and grind lifestyle that so many seem to be subscribing to, which hasn't even really been proven to work in the first place, is it really a bad thing to take a little break from that from now and again and visit something more comfortable? Aloha,